California. The state of California has resorted to issuing IOUs instead of paying its bills. Governor Schwarzenegger and the state legislature are locked in what seems to be a perpetual debate, this one to resolve a nearly $30 billion deficit. Big corporations have been fleeing the state for many years, and the mortgage crisis has devastated millions of people there. This is an example of the consequences of an expanding government that unwillingly and recklessly taxes and spends and ignores the basic principles of capitalism and rejects the free market. My next guest has seen this devastation and this frustration and the anger toward these lawmakers by attending numerous tea parties and town halls and various other conventions and conferences where the anger in California is at a boiling point. Joining me now is John Dennis, the libertarian seeking the Republican nomination to challenge, of all people, Speaker of the House of Representatives Nancy Pelosi for her job representing the 8th Congressional District in San Francisco. John, welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Judge, it's a pleasure as always.
You know, when we first talked about this, I thought, my God, a Republican in San Francisco, this has got like a Republican in Cook County, Illinois, in Chicago. What chance do you have? But the more I thought of it, the more I thought of San Francisco, a liberty-loving city, a place where people want to do their own thing and want to be left alone. You might really stand a chance in the city by the bay. What do you think?
Well, you'd be surprised, Judge, at how well things are going. The message is just, it seems to be resonating. And I remember Ron Paul talking about during his campaign that something big is going on. And I don't know, maybe I'm being premature, or maybe it's because it's the first big elective office I've run for. But I'm getting the sense of that, too. Maybe it's just the tailwinds that I'm getting from the Ron Paul phenomenon, but I'm feeling it as well. And I think the message is resonating. You know, Nancy Pelosi's had 11 Republican opponents out of San Francisco since she's run in 1987. And because she became Speaker of the House, the 11th actually raised more money than the previous 10 combined. But we got the fewest percentage of votes. And I think that the traditional Republican message, I should say, is dead in the water here. And I think there's an appetite for a pro-liberty candidate.
Every time I interview a libertarian who is seeking the Republican nomination to a state or national office, they tell me that in that part of the country, and we've done this for Arizona and Pennsylvania and New Mexico and now California, there is a disconnect, a major disconnect between the leadership of the Republican Party and the rank and file in the Republican Party. So tell me this, John, is the Republican Party still one that believes in maximum individual liberty and minimum government and states' rights and areas of human behavior that the feds simply can't recognize? Is it just the folks in the Republican Party in Washington who have become these big government Republicans?
Well, I have to say that locally, my reception and my contact with the local Republican Party and the statewide has been excellent. They've welcomed me and my message with, I'd say, fairly open arms. You know, there are differences, of course. The grassroots, of course, is also pushing. You'll see resolutions coming out of different central committees pushing a more pro-liberty position. And I'll also say that, you know, as you mentioned in your introduction, I've been doing a lot of these tea parties and conventions and talking to large groups of people. And the biggest reception I get is when I deliver the pro-liberty message. That's what people really like, and it's intriguing to them, people who haven't really heard it or paid attention to it before. So I think the party is, look, you know, if you look at the two national party platforms, the Democratic Party platform and the Republican,
right,
the word liberty doesn't come up in the Democratic Party platform until page 26 of 58. It comes up in the first paragraph of the preamble on the Republican Party platform, and that's that is the reason why I'm a Republican.
Right. Does she ever have any serious opposition, Mrs. Pelosi, or is this one of those seats that's just, whether it's San Francisco or whether it's gerrymandering, whatever the heck they've done, that's tailor-made for her?
Well, yeah, if you're tied into the Democratic machine, it's a pretty tough spot. But I think that we can do much better. In fact, we have to do much better because, frankly, the statist Pelosi agenda will ruin what's left of what I refer to as the American experiment in liberty. So this time around, she's going to have a new fight. You know, we have all of the great volunteer staff, not just locally, but across the country, who are behind the campaign.
Right.
The fundraising is going well. We're reaching out to all the other groups that traditionally Republicans can't talk to. And there's going to be a powerful coalition that's going to come about. And I'd say in the general election, you're going to see some surprising endorsements for our campaign.
Here's how I think your message can resonate. John, I mean, she is the biggest of the big government folks in all of Washington. She's the farthest left of all the central figures in this administration. She wants to put people in jail if they don't buy the insurance that some federal bureaucrat tells them to buy. Now, wouldn't an argument like that turn a lot of heads in San Francisco and say, wait a minute, we've been represented for all these years by somebody that wants to put us in jail if we don't spend our money the way Washington tells us to spend it?
I know, and you know, it's the outrage has never ceased to end. And you know, we can get I get caught up in the symptoms, and her agenda is just a symptom of the real disease, which is the government continuing to interfere in the economy, and at the end of the day, the utter disrespect that the federal government has for the Constitution. Federal government will always continue to expand,
right,
and always continue to expand at the expense of our individual liberties. And let me tell you, there is an appetite for that message even here in San Francisco.
I'll tell you another message for which I think there's an appetite in San Francisco is a message of peace. I mean, she supports an undeclared, unlawful, immoral, fruitless war in Afghanistan simply because the head of her party, who's also the president of the United States of America, is in favor of this because he ran on this so he'd have some street cred with the pro-war voters in the country. Let's see. The government of Afghanistan controls about 3 major cities there. We've chased the Taliban and we've chased al-Qaeda into Pakistan. She wants to add another 40,000 troops to the 60,000 that are already there. So we'll have 100,000 troops waging a war against who and for what and to what end in Afghanistan? Question, wouldn't that argument resonate against her?
Oh, you betcha. And it's an argument that I plan on making clearly, particularly in the general election. You know, what's ironic about this, I'll share sometime some of the emails I get about Nancy Pelosi. People, one of the things that gets under people's skin about her is her hypocrisy. And this is a really clear-cut example of it. She hated the war under George Bush, and now she's twisting arms behind the scenes to continue it. And I think that it's a dishonor to the men in the military who bravely and honorably get involved to protect our country, to have them in a muddled, unconstitutional mission. It's not right, and for her, of all people, to continue to force us to stay in that war is unconscionable.
She does exactly what she thinks the left wing of her party wants, whether it's in the best interest of her constituents or not. Look, San Francisco is well known for having one of the largest, most politically active gay communities in the United States of America. She's not even in favor of gay marriage. She thinks that the government can tell gays what kind of a relationship they can have. How about it's none of the government's business, and as long as the relationship is voluntary and among consenting adults, it's lawful? She doesn't even accept that view.
Judge, I always like to talk to you. I have these novel ideas, like the government shouldn't be involved in the marriage business. No, I mean, yeah, of course. And I mean, believe you me, people are very upset about that out here. And those are the types of people that we can talk to and build the kinds of coalitions that can actually have us run a serious race. Now, look, I know what the challenges are here. We have an uphill battle, and it's a tough thing to do. But if we can have a strong showing here, it will send a message across this country and into her party that her agenda is completely unacceptable. And that's our goal right now, is to run a really credible campaign against, frankly, a person who I think is a very shrewd politician, but at the end of the day, a second-tier candidate.
All right. And if people want to know how to reach you or how to participate in the campaign, it's JohnDennis2010.com. Do I have that right?
That's perfect. JohnDennis.com. If you Google John Dennis, I come up first.
JohnDennis.com.
Response from the campaign.
Taking on the incarnation of big government, Nancy Pelosi herself. John, it's a pleasure. Come back and visit us again. Thanks for joining us on Freedom Watch.
Thank you, Judge.